All right, good evening and welcome to Motivational Monday with LuAnnB. I am here this evening. Actually, it's afternoon. I am pre-recording this because this evening I will be at a American Business Women's Association dinner, and so I will miss our time together in the evening. Still hoping that one day you'll come on live with me, however, in the future, and we're going to keep working on this Monday evening time frame. I'm moving my husband down to Arizona for the winter, so my evenings will be more free to be talking any time in the evening that we want to. So we'll play with that time a little bit as we move forward. But tonight, my friend Patty Blakesley. Say hi, Patty.
Hi, everyone.
My friend Patty is with us because Patty has a background in the mortgage industry, in real estate, and she told me something else. I forgot. Tax.
I was a municipal tax assessor.
Municipal tax assessor as well. And she listened to the presentation we did last Monday, or the conversation that I had last Monday with Tanya Villar, and thought that we left out a few things people might be interested in when we're talking about challenges with our mortgages. And that's understandable. Tanya and I tend to get on a very spiritual path in that conversation, and so Patty wanted to bring forward some more realistic conversation of the day-to-day. What I told Patty is, and I will repeat for all of you, is that I wanted to share this from a space of authenticity and vulnerability, and know that we all face the same challenges from time to time in life, and you are not alone. And there are people there to help you. It doesn't feel that way when the mortgage company is coming down on you. It's very scary, and they're very hard to deal with. So in one hand, I have submitted all the necessary paperwork to modify my loan and do whatever it needs to take, yet the specialist that they have assigned to me, I can't get on the phone. So that person and I can't seem to connect. Yet on the other side, the mortgage company is taking all their standard actions, sending me multiple threatening letters in a week, notices on my door. Friday, a woman came to my door just to say, hey, are you living here? I was in a good space on Friday, and I'm like, I'm here. I'm still living here, and I don't plan on going anywhere. It's just a matter of time until I work this out. And so that's authentically where I'm at right now. I'm a couple months behind, and they appear to be taking action really rapidly. On the other hand, when I do ever get to talk to somebody on their phone, they're like, oh, don't worry about it. You're doing all the right things. So Patty, how do we balance that with all the threats, the fear that comes with that?
I think that people in that situation, like you're in, need to realize that there are options, and the threatening notices ought not to be ignored, but are the first line of defense that the bank or whoever holds the mortgage sends out, because it's easier. But ultimately, they really do not want to go through the foreclosure process. They don't want to own a home. They're not in the business to own homes.
You know, and that's one of the things that Tanya would have said to me in her situation that happened years ago, and that what ended up happening for her is when the rubber hit the road, they finally made her a really great offer and were able to modify and adjust whatever it took to allow her to keep the home.
Well, I think one of the things you have to realize is that mortgages are, initially you go to a bank usually, or a mortgage corporation to get qualified in order to get money. But those loans can often be sold on the secondary market. So you lose that connection with someone. And that what happened to have it refinanced or recalculated there's a law that banks have to apply. I think it's called HARP. And they can, if you reach someone who has the knowledge, they can help you sometimes refinance your mortgage so you can make it more affordable. But like you said, it's really complicated and hard to talk to someone. So the first,
yeah, because that's exactly what has happened to me. My original loan was with a local bank here. Right. Over time, it got sold multiple times on the secondary market. It now resides with one of the major mortgage corporations, and they just have no time for a personal conversation. And I was in conversation with a woman who then got relocated, got a new job within the organization, and so it was passed off to somebody new who I have yet to connect with. Even though I've scheduled appointments with that individual, they have not followed through. And so you were talking to me earlier about the promise, right, that I entered into when I got a loan. And I entered into that promise with one organization. I'm now working with a completely different organization who looks at me as a number and not as an individual.
You've become a number. So it's very important for anybody in any situation when they go to contact whoever is holding their mortgage to make a note of the time you called, the date you called, the person you spoke to. And if that person doesn't reply, then you've got to be very meticulous. It helps anyway if you are. Keep track of all the calls you've made, because you might get to a point where someone says, well, you haven't contacted us, and you can go, excuse me, I have contacted you.
Yes.
And oftentimes if you cannot get a response by being calling in, go to the post office and send a certified return receipt requested letter to whom it may concern or to that person, and outline what's going on. Because ultimately someone is responsible and someone will talk to you. There are good people in these positions, but they might be overwhelmed. They might have 100 to 1,000 different mortgages that they're trying to collect on, and their job requires them to do that in some way, shape, or form. And, I think with persistence, I know when I was a real estate agent, I had several people who were in the foreclosure process, and it would take me days of calls and getting through to people, and then you'd finally find somebody who's sympathetic, and the next time you talk to them, they've been fired or they quit or they've been promoted, which is what you're saying. Right. It's very, very frustrating. But I guess that on an energetic level, you have to take that frustration and understand that you can overcome it with your own positive belief that you can resolve this situation to your satisfaction.
Well, and I think that that's the key, Patty. That's really the key message that I think we were ultimately trying to share last week. And we got into details of how to calm oneself, really, and center oneself, and got sidetracked off the direct conversation around the mortgage. But if I were in a state of panic, right, I would be in a much worse place energetically than I am in a place of understanding that this is a due process that takes time, and I fully intend to honor my commitments and recover on this. I mean, in actuality, one major client turns this thing around for me. One major client comes in, 1 year-long coaching client, one corporate client, and this whole thing can turn around. But what's happening for me right now is people are going, it's the holidays. I don't want to do anything right now. And they're all pushing off until next year in order to invest in the programs that they want to do with me. And so it's putting me in a little bit of a pickle because they're all pushing off. That's the deal. And what I want people to know, and hope that you can help to reassure, is that this foreclosure word is not an overnight process. It's not even a 30-day process or a 90-day process.
No, I think that I've seen foreclosure processes go for years, and I think you have too.
I have.
What you don't want to get to is a point where the mortgage company says they will not accept your payments, because that accelerates the whole process.
And what would make them get to that point?
Well, they've got some spreadsheet that says this person is delinquent and hasn't paid in X number of months, and that could shove you over. So one of the things that I've always understood is that even if you don't have the full mortgage payment, you can send in a partial mortgage payment, and that at least shows your willingness to repay this loan.
Right.
But one of the things that's important to do as you're in this process is look at your finances and see if there is a way out. And like you're describing, one client for you would make a world of difference. But there are people who may be in a situation where they have equity in the home that they could potentially lose if they don't protect it. And if they get in too far down the mortgage foreclosure process, then it's a wise thing to go see a real estate agent and see what they could sell their home for.
Right. And that's the long term again, right? That one gets upside down. Is that the language in the house?
Yes. What that means, back in the heyday of the 2005, 2006, prices were so high, and then the market dropped. And part of the reason the market dropped is because they were extending too much credit to everyone. They were letting you borrow 110% of the value of your home, thinking that the market would continue to go up.
Right.
It crashed.
Right.
And then it's a sort of a catch-22 situation, because then there were houses in foreclosure that were going out on the market at very low price, or houses that had already been foreclosed by banks. They were hitting the market, so people could go out and buy a home at a very low value, and then the value of your home kept dropping. So depending on how upside down you might be, and that is a good thing to check with a reputable real estate agent at the start of the process, is just to see how much equity you have in your home. Worst case scenario, if you were to sell it, could you satisfy the mortgage, etc.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I know, and I'm sure you would agree with this, LuAnnB, is you don't want to turn to anger as a result. Because if you get angry for the situation, first of all, you're denying what is. What is the fact? The fact is that for whatever reason, and they're all good reasons, and my heart goes out to anyone in this situation, you are not able to pay your mortgage in a timely fashion, there are consequences. And so to get angry, I've seen houses where people have taken an axe to every single door in the house and every drywall, and then, walked away.
Yeah.
And they might have left value in that home because they were so angry.
Right.
So my counsel is to first recognize that this is a situation that can be resolved to everyone's good, including your own. Even if you have to end up selling your home and renting for a while to get back on your feet, that's okay.
Well, and that's just actually that you brought up renting. That was another great advice that someone gave me, is they said, rent out a room in your house, LuAnnB, to help to pay that mortgage. And so actually I have someone that is moving in potentially in January for a few months. Right. Someone who is separating from their husband and needs a place until they get on their feet. And so we can create a win-win. And so, again, you're absolutely right. Don't get angry. That's exactly what a family member of mine did. He got angry at the system and just dug his feet in and refused to speak to anyone or make any payments whatsoever. And I think it took 3 years, but finally, like you said to me earlier, the sheriff will show up at your door and kindly remove you if you fail to take your own action. And so that's a good point, is that I have absolutely every intention to take every action and look at every resource and possibility, including I have found a local bank who's willing to consider looking at it, and would they do it locally, as they said, because they can look at it from a more human perspective and knowing an individual in the community rather than this big conglomerate who I'm number to. And so the thing that we're both saying is to stay in calm. That's what Tanya was really getting to. Stay in prayer for what is my action, what is my next step, right? So my prayers are about attracting all the right and perfect clients to me who I know I can help and serve. And just this morning, after my morning ritual of prayers and meditation, I got an email from a mother, a woman who I had coached previously. And she said, LuAnnB, I need your help. My daughter is having troubles, and she's even getting in trouble with the law, and I need you to take her through the passion test, and let's get her on the right course. And has already scheduled, paid, the whole works, right? These are the positive things that can happen when we stay looking at the positive resolutions instead of standing in fear, anger, or stuck, or pity for oneself, which is easy to go to.
I think you brought up two really good things that we ought to reiterate, and that is to seek ways to find a solution to your economic difficulties. And when I was a single parent with the mortgage, I rented a room out in my house several times in order to get some auxiliary money. Did I like the inconvenience? Not necessarily, but it's important to know that there are options like that. Also, you mentioned going to your local bank, and that's an awesome thought that people can do that, because local banks have more flexibility in how they run the numbers and how they loan out money, and also credit unions. So if you're in the situation that you really need to restructure that mortgage so your monthly payment is less, consider going to a credit union. Of course, mortgages and credit unions still going to look at your credit report. And that is a whole another topic.
Right.
About how to build your credit report and improve the number on it so that you have more flexibility in your life. But I think and ultimately the wonderful thing that you said is that we have to stay clear and positive and understand that the universe has our back.
Right.
If we recognize that.
Right. Right. And all things for a reason, right?
That too, because
if there's ultimately a reason I'm not supposed to be here anymore, then I have to be open to that. That's really scary to say. Makes me want to cry. I really love my house. But if there's something better out there for me that's coming, then that's what it would be. So, but I do 99% of the time remain completely positive that we're going to turn this situation around. And I wanted to share it with other people so that they can sit in a more peaceful place if they are dealing with this. And Patty has kindly opened her heart to say if anyone would like to speak with her based on her knowledgeable background and your current situation, that she would be happy to take that call. I think you need to schedule with her by email. Is that what you said, Patty? We'll get your email out there, and you could reach out to Patty, and you can put mortgage in the subject line, and she'll be happy to make an appointment with you and have a conversation to see how she can help you get some direction and potentially some peace, right? Because all that Patty and I want with the work we do. By the way, I forgot to mention that Patty is also a passion test facilitator. All the work that we do is wanting to help people to live in a greater state of peace and joy in their life and get out of stuck and out of any pain and anxiety that you're dealing with. And all too many people are living in that space of anxious struggle in life instead of living it in peace and joy and understanding. So
I think we talk about this with any struggle. The first step is awareness. And you need to be aware of what it is you're struggling with.
Right. And Tanya, I was just listening to one of her meditations this morning, talked about being aware of, are you in fight, flight, or frozen in place? And I know those feelings of all of those things. And so when I'm feeling anxious, then I stop and ask myself, which of those things is it? And then I know what to ask for in my meditation, right? If I'm feeling frozen, I'm going to ask for, please help me with the next steps. Please tell me and guide my next actions so that I do the right thing to move this forward, for example. And all three of those things, fright, flight, or frozen, it's a time to stop and pay attention to self, get centered again, get connected to your higher source, and then peace can come in. And I always say, and this is a common actually statement, right? Calmer minds prevail. Calmer minds prevail. We think more clearly. We take more inspired actions when we come from that state of peace versus when we're reacting in fight or flight mode, right?
Right. And to trust, I mean, I think that once you get to that peace, you get peace by trusting.
Yes.
If there's a solution, there's reasons. It's not the end of the world. It feels like it. I know it does, but it's not.
Yeah. That's so true. And that trust is so important. And that, again, is where the work that Patty and I do help people to get into that mindset of trusting that the universe has our back. And you start to look for the evidence of that when you live in that space, just like I noticed this morning right away that here was this email from a client, a plea for help, which is just what I want to do, is help people, right?
Absolutely.
And my request this morning was to help me increase my financial situation in meaningful ways by serving other people. And I got the answer. There it was. Someone needed my help in a meaningful way that I can serve and generate an income. So
that was proof positive, right?
Yes, proof. But you start to see that evidence when you're looking in that direction, right? As we say in the passion touch, that which you focus on grows stronger in your life. You start to notice when you are clear what you want will show up in your life. But we have to consciously be in that space to be open to it to come in and notice when it does and appreciate that, right?
Well, isn't that also what we call the passion test formula? I know it comes from other things, but you have the intention. So if your intention is to get caught up with your mortgage and to avoid foreclosure, then you do the actions that you can, and then you just have to let go to that state of no tension, which to me is that calm, trusting place, and realize that it will work out. Everything happens for a reason. It's okay.
Yeah. And what Tanya was pointing out, even though we felt like we got a little distracted last time, she was pointing out that I'm going through this to become more learned at the fact that these things happen. And when we put trust and faith into the picture, that we move through it. When we get into the angry fight or flight, we get contracted, and then it's harder to move through it, right?
Right. And you also talked about you were clearing this out of your whole family in a sense, because what we learn, we share with others.
Right.
And so when you heal anything, if you fix a financial situation, it's not just for you, you're doing it really for a lot of other people too.
Right. Absolutely.
You show that modeling.
Right. And that's interesting too. I was that's sometimes where we also get stuck, right? And we hide. And this was an important piece for me, is that I always talk about being passionate and being in joy and so forth. And so I sit up here going, I need to demonstrate that all the time. Yeah. And the reality is that I have challenges just like other people do. And I wanted to be completely authentic and vulnerable about that, because we can all move through together from that space instead of trying to do it alone, hiding behind it, that kind of thing. So that's part of the reason I wanted to bring it out in the open and have a conversation about it. It feels so much better,
Right.
Like historically, years ago, I didn't look at my bills and stuff like that. Like, I don't want to see it. I don't want to know. Well, then I'm hiding behind it and there's nothing flowing, right?
Well, we're not promoting denial.
Correct.
We are promoting a conscious reaction.
Yes.
And not just an innate response.
Right.
I have a friend who's a nutritionist who posts on Facebook, and she's always talking about how she's making mistakes so you don't have to. Right.
I have a chiropractor friend who teaches all about eliminating toxins from your life and the right things to eat. And she goes, but I want to tell you, I'm not perfect. I'm on the same journey with you to get better and better every day. She's like, there's still days where I sit in the corner and eat my bag of jelly beans.
Yep.
Even though she would promote no sugar in your diet.
Right.
So we're all in this together. And that is, my retreats and everything that I put on is about women coming together, supporting women. And I don't want to leave men out. You can come too. And being vulnerable at the things that we're going through, because when we have the conversation, then we let the energy flow. When we lock down and don't talk to anybody or try and hide from it or denial, then nothing good is flowing.
Well, then it goes inside and you risk health problems if it.
This is exactly where I was going next, because what's resonating in my head is the same is true when people are diagnosed with an illness, right? If you shut down and oh, poor pitiful me, and I'm going to die in 6 weeks or whatever they give you. It's like the doctor planted the seed and you fulfill the prophecy instead of the positive side of how can I enjoy the most of what I have left, no matter how much time that is, and come from a space of positive and peace. I mean, there's studies that show that people who are surrounding themselves with peace, joy, laughter, live longer, no matter what their condition.
Well, Norman Vincent Peale healed himself, I think, twice from cancer with laughter. That was his medicine, was to laugh.
Yeah.
And there's a whole school now of positive psychology, and that's where these studies are coming from. They found that even if the doctor and the anesthesiologist and the nurses before an operation, if they say positive affirmations before the operation, that patient has more positive outcome.
Absolutely.
They've proven that. They have studies. So in this situation, it's the same thing. If you, LuAnnB, and I know you do, believe in the positive outcome of your financial problem with the bank, it's so much more likely to happen than if you didn't.
Correct.
So with the passion test, we know we want to stay open for this or something better.
That's right.
That's
right. So I hope that our conversation today has helped to tie up some of the loose ends potentially from last week's video. And Tanya just vibrates at such a high level of spirituality that's where we go. And she's right. We need to go into that centeredness in order to be able to get through the day of society's struggles that roll out before us sometimes. And we can have the positive rollout at our feet with that positive intentioning and openness to see those opportunities. So we could talk all day, Patty and I, with you.
We know we can, and we will, and we do.
And I have another intention I'll share with you. Is that my friend Patty and I do a lot more things together, retreats and such, and potentially invest in this retreat center together. And so I'm putting that intention out there that you'll be seeing a lot more of Patty and I, and we'd love to support you. And I will figure out how to give you both Patty and my email addresses when I post this on YouTube, so you can reach out to either of us. If it's financial advice on a mortgage, you got to go to Patty. I'm just navigating the waters with other people's advice like hers. And if it's from a spiritual perspective, you can reach out to either of us. We'd be happy to help you in any way that we can.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you, LuAnnB, for having me. It's been an honor to have this discussion.
Thanks, Patty, for being with me today. And you have a great rest of your day. Everybody else, enjoy your Monday and see me next week.
And
Motivational Mondays.
Happy Thanksgiving, too. Week coming up has got one of my favorite holidays.
With great gratitude for all that we have.
Absolutely.
We are so blessed. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Bye for now.
Love you.
You.